Good afternoon, everyone. We do continue in this Holy Week looking at the ways in which we can draw closer to God, the ways in which we can keep focused on the cross. And today's word is pray. There is so much that could be said about prayer. There's millions of books that have been written. There's all different kinds of ways to pray, different formats, different tools and resources to help us pray. But at its very core, it is about a relationship with God. It is about having a conversation with God. I don't know about you, but most often I find myself talking to God, not talking with God, and also not listening very much. And prayer is also about listening to God. Now, we don't not necessarily hear a voice in our head. We might, but we may also just be a way to rest in God's presence, to imagine God's love surrounding us, to being enveloped by God's grace. One of the things I like that we do is sometimes is our prayer shawls, where you can just then wrap, as people are creating them, that they're praying for that, for the person that will be receiving it, even if they don't know who that will be. But then holding it around us, knowing that we're enveloped by God's love, to have God's prayer for us surrounded. It's really been, as I reflected on these 40 days of Lent, as I thought about each of the words, I tried to move from just thinking about them in terms of what I can do or what I'm doing, and kind of turning it on its head, and to think instead about how God is responding to us, about how God relates to us, because we are often very self-focused. I know I am. And so I always think about, well, what can I do to pray? What can I do to do other things? But to reflect on that, I'm going to have to do this in part 2 because the bell of the church just rang. So I will be back in part 2 in a while. Take care.